Hey, hands and knees Nintendo here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's This Unruly Mess I Made. Seattle rapper Macklemore paired up once again with his right-hand producer, Ryan Lewis, for a new full-length album. They had a huge independent come-up in 2012 off of some singles from their last collaborative album, and it has been a rocky and polarizing ride ever since. But before all of this drama and controversy that now surrounds Macklemore, I was enjoying his music. I really liked his Wings single, video, and EP. I thought his album, which was out a little while before he blew up, was decent upon my initial review of it. There were some corny tracks on this thing, but it had some powerful moments too. I liked the topical tracks, and I thought some of the more playful, ridiculous songs were cool as well. In general, the album was being met with some very polite praise. I mean, even people from Top Dog Entertainment were featured on the project. Even Sub Pop came out with a vinyl single of the song Same Love. But then, it's just kind of like overnight success, because Macklemore's silliest track on the project blew up due to not only it being a fun and a well-crafted song, but it had a nutty music video to boot. And that caused all of Macklemore's other tracks to be put back into perspective, like Can't Hold Us and Same Love, which are now huge smash hits. The album itself has a platinum certification. And with this sudden popularity has come a lot of criticisms. Macklemore is a white guy in hip-hop. He's kind of exploiting the gay community for attention and success because he himself, he's not in that community. Why would he be making songs about their struggles? There's also this thing that happened. Macklemore, a lot of people see him as corny and preachy and inauthentic. And I get those criticisms. He's not always on my good side either. But sometimes I don't think people want to give him credit where it is due. I think he can dominate and vividly paint a topic when he wants to. I think Ryan Lewis is a talented producer. Sure, maybe his beats are a little glitzy and glamorous sometimes, but I think they're tasteful, mostly. As far as pop rap goes, I think you could do a lot worse. I mean, I could be listening to a G-Eazy record, and I don't want to listen to a G-Eazy record. And I just find it odd that people complain about pop rap like this as not really being hip-hop, because the truth is that the pop rap floodgates have been opened years ago by some of the originators of the genre. It's like when it comes to Macklemore, everybody becomes this 2000s New York hip-hop purist wearing a backpack, when I know you're just listening to Drake. And with this new record over here, I'm not really expecting Macklemore to win any of these people over, win his haters over. I'm not even really expecting him to change his sound or his style all that much. I mean, he's seen nothing but success up until this point, being himself, paired with Ryan Lewis, so I don't see him veering away from that path. And that's in fact what he does. He sticks to his guns on this project, and in a way I do admire him for that, because he's, in a way, staying true to himself in the face of this incredible fame that he's just been handed overnight. Now, he's not doing the same exact thing over again. Well, not the exact same thing. Like with Macklemore's last project, there are moments on here that are incredibly silly and playful, maybe to the point where they step over a boundary where it makes me cringe a little bit. There are tracks that feature glamorous, huge instrumentals layered with just gigantic arranged instrumentation, where Macklemore lyrically is trying to take on a larger-than-life topic. In a lot of ways, this record is the Macklemore that we've known from his last album, just with everything about him turned up to 11. The entire thing kicks off with the incredibly sharp and self-aware Light Tunnels, probably one of my favorite tracks on the project. Monstrous instrumentation on this thing, from the group vocals to the strings to the horns to the pianos, the ever-prevalent pianos all over this thing. There's a very dramatic hook from Mike Slap, and lyrically the song is essentially about how Macklemore is dealing with this newfound fame, specifically within the context of the Grammy Award show where he won Best Hip Hop Record. And he uses this opportunity to kind of go in on the commercialism and the narcissism of the music industry. Although, despite the drama with Kendrick and him feeling like Kendrick should have won, I'm kind of surprised that he didn't really give a large nod to that in this song. Still, even with that piece of the puzzle being omitted between the makeup and the inauthenticity, he paints a really vivid picture. I mean, the story is just watertight, from him arriving to the place to his acceptance speech, all of which are displayed in different passages of the song where he either will change his inflection a little bit or the instrumentation will alter. And I love how he finishes the song off describing his popularity, his fame, and his success as an unruly mess that he made. While I might not agree with Macklemore on everything that he says and does on every single song, there are moments where I think his self-awareness is so sharp that I can't help but just be in admiration of it. The next track is Downtown, a big single off of this record that you might have already heard, and the track has probably grown on me a little bit since I initially heard it and reviewed it on this channel. The Tiramisu line still makes me groan a bit, but the feature vocals from guys like Melly Mel and Grandmaster Caz, awesome. The hook from the Foxy Shazam lead singer is amazing too. The groove and the bass line on this track is great, killer. And it's just one of those moments where Macklemore comes through with a fun song that's actually fun and entertaining. No major complaints, it's a highlight on the record. But with Brad Pitt's cousin, Macklemore continues his silly streak, but just nosedives it into painting himself as Brad Pitt's ugly cousin or something, with a hook that is so painful to sit through. All my Angelinas. Ugh, give me a break. Though I don't really have anything against a lot of the verses on this thing. I do think Macklemore comes across as charismatic and clever and funny when he's dropping lines about how someone else will show up to a place with their crew, but he's showing up with his parents. And every white guy walks into the barbershop asking for the Macklemore haircut. Macklemore has a good sense of humor about himself and what he does, and though it doesn't always resonate with me, I do appreciate it. Then we have the song Buckshot, which is another favorite of mine on this thing. Features not only DJ Premier, but also the God, KRS-One. Another moment on the project where I feel like Macklemore is obviously inviting these people on to sort of prove his hip-hop knowledge and his hip-hop authenticity. And sure, it seems a little shallow and it seems a little obvious. That effort seems very obvious, but because he actually does appreciate the genre, these features and these incorporations go over really well, because KRS-One's feature on this thing is fantastic. It's energetic, it's in your face, it's just over the top, and Macklemore's delivery on this track is great too. And the best thing about this track is not only the killer instrumental, which has this piano line that kind of alludes to Nas's Illmatic. I mean, it's just a hard, grimy 90s boom bap flavor to this beat, but also the song is about graffiti, it's about tagging, and Macklemore and KRS-One handled the topic really well. I mean, they really carry the torch. Macklemore brings it to KRS-One and the relay race continues, and they just stay on point. The record switches into a heartwarming gear with Ed Sheeran on the song Growing Up. The track is a little cloying, but it's a semi-cute song about fatherhood and all the plans Macklemore has for raising his daughter. And there are some thoughtful and precious sentiments on this record, but there are just as many moments that, go to festivals, do yoga, and cheat at calculus. It's oppressively heartwarming, you know, to the point where it feels manipulative, and I don't care for it. I do like the Ed Sheeran hook on this thing, though. It's rare that I come across an Ed Sheeran track or chorus that I care for. Not that I think he's terrible, but he just never really resonates with me. But I think his passionate singing on this track is beautiful, and once again, the very prominent pianos on this album pop up here, and I think they set a good foundation. The album stays serious on the next track, Kevin. It seems Macklemore being a dad kind of throws him back into a bit of a nostalgia trip, and he starts taking on a really huge topic here, abuse of prescription drugs, and how prescription drugs can kind of be a gateway for some people. The song kind of reminds me of Wings in that Macklemore is really shedding some light on an overlooked issue or an ignored issue, and then tying it in with some personal experiences, seeing a friend of his suffer through this issue. On the song St. Ides, Macklemore goes in a little bit further when it comes to just using substances to escape from the stresses of everyday life. The instrumental is super subtle, very quiet, features these twang guitars that kind of remind me of like a Velvet Underground song. It's a nice little detour, and with the song Need to Know with Chance the Rapper, he continues down this road of ignorance is bliss and kind of looking sentimentally back on these days when he didn't really need to know the truth or acknowledge the truth, and he was, again, just diving into substances in order to, I guess, kind of heal himself. While it's not a bad track, and I think the Chance the Rapper feature is great. I love the line that he drops about scratching a line out but not being able to forget it. And I do like a lot of Macklemore's lyrics on this track too. I mean, I love the bar about the grass always being greener when you play on AstroTurf. But by this point on the record, this point of ignorance being bliss has been driven home. I mean, it's been home. It's 18 now, and it's ready to move out of the house. It's almost like Macklemore's running out of things to write about because he hasn't really drifted away from this topic for 3 tracks now. And then we drift into a song that is the worst song on the project, Dance Off. You know, I thought Spoons was going to be the worst song on this project, but it appears not to have made it onto the standard version of the record. But the song Dance Off does take that worst track title very easily. It's just a shade away from being like a Lonely Island comedy rap track, really. Featuring these really overdone and kind of cartoony spoken word vocals from actor Idris Elba. A decent feature from Anderson .Paak, but I mean, unless you want to hear verses about silly dance moves and old people genitals, this track will probably not be for you. The song Let's Eat is kind of cute. It's a track about food, fat, dieting, exercise, taking care of yourself, wanting to diet but always putting it off to the next day. It's kind of like a mediocrity anthem, though again, kind of cute. And Bolo Tie, I don't know, maybe the most underwhelming track on the project. Sort of drab, not really that great of a beat, not really that great of a flow. A feature from YG that I'm not really sure what Macklemore thought it was bringing to the track. And lyrically, Macklemore, his point is so faint on this song, he might as well just not have made it. Like, is the industry unfair? I guess, but I feel like you kind of already painted that picture with the first track, and now you've kind of come back to it here on this song, but with way less oomph and way less in the way of interesting observations. You know, not that the first 2/3 of the record are perfect, they're not, but they were certainly much more consistent than the last third of this thing. It feels like on the last third here, Macklemore has run out of things to say, and the record is really struggling to get its footing back. And the album does not end off strong with the song White Privilege. I've given this track a review on this channel previously, and I have to say within the context of the record, I don't really enjoy it anymore. I might even enjoy it less. Musically, instrumentally, the song is so tedious and disjointed and unfulfilling. Macklemore sounds about as awkward on these shades of black music as he does trying to talk about these black issues. And when it comes to the message, I feel like Macklemore is doing exactly what he's talking about not doing, or what he's trying not to do, or what he thinks he's not doing, and that is in a really unhealthy and in a really unhelpful way, just inserting himself into the Black Lives Matter discussion in a way that seems like he's just kind of doing it for attention or just jumping onto the bandwagon because he feels, for some reason, like he needs to talk about these issues. And they're worth talking about. Discussions should be had, but the way that Macklemore frames it in this song, it's like it's all about him. It's not really about what's at stake. It's not really about who's suffering. It's not really about why. It's about Macklemore feeling awkward and feeling uninvited to participate in these protests, and he just wants to be able to help. And he sort of puts it within the frame of being white, and sure, your average white person probably does have some of these thoughts in their head when it comes to sympathizing with movements like Black Lives Matter, but it's not like white people don't go to these protests. It's not like there aren't black protesters who are fine with white people involving themselves in these protests. It's not like black people don't want white people to help out in any way, shape, or form on these issues. But it seems Macklemore kind of ignores the celebrity quotient of this equation when it comes to him. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these Black Lives Matter people aren't against him participating because he's white, but because he's a celebrity, and just jumping in, being like, hey, I'm Macklemore, I'm participating, I care, has the potential to derail and distract from what the protesters are trying to do. I mean, Black Lives Matter, they're not perfect, I don't agree with them on everything, but consistently the group has not been a very hierarchical organization. They're not really the group to just let celebrities in and let figureheads in and make announcements and make decisions. They're a collective in the truest sense of the word. And Macklemore sort of seems to be ignorant to that in this song. And ignorant to a lot of other things too. I mean, as well-intentioned as he might be on this issue, the way the song ends off with this collage that essentially comes to the conclusion that we just need to have a dialogue, we just need to come to a dialogue, we just need to read an article. It makes the whole thing just seem like an empty platitude, an empty promise. It's just a big ball of feelings with no real solutions or point of view, and I fail to see what Macklemore's point of view brings to this problem. Overall, I think the record is okay. It's pretty inconsistent. You know, it has its high marks, it has its low marks. Most of the low stuff turns up in the last third, where Macklemore effectively just runs out of things to rap about, and the big issues that he does try to take on, like white privilege, like Black Lives Matter, he does so very ineffectively. Just placing the blame on himself and just putting the cross on his back as this white rapper martyr does nobody no good. Just once again, Macklemore is his clever, funny, thoughtful, corny, cringy self. He's not always bad, he's not always good, and as a result, I mean, you get mixed results, once again, just like with his last record, though I think maybe this time a little more mixed than before. I'm feeling a light 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You the best, you the best. What should I review next? Hit that like if you like. Forever.